Hello and welcome to Lost for Words, where we explore great women poets. I am Sarah Woods. We are continuing exploring the incredibly talented Sylvia Plath, but we are exploring not just her poetry, but we are taking short little dives into her journals. This is a book, it's the Unabridged Journals of Sylvia Plath. And today I've got my tin can ready and my stick. I don't know if you remember, I've used this in previous videos. Sylvia Plath poetry, sometimes for me, it has this feeling of you're going along reading the poem, and then suddenly, if it were music, if her poetry were music, it would feel sort of like someone started ringing a tin can and you're like, oh God, what's happening? So I felt that in her poetry, but I now have also felt it in her journals. I don't know how you guys feel about the word rape, but for me, when I hear that word, it brings up like visuals and images and feelings in me that make me think of being violated, someone forcibly doing something to you that you did not want. Me think of like trauma and just a violation of your body. Nothing to me that's very like romantic or sweet about it. But Sylvia, oh Sylvia. She's given us something to talk about today. All right, I'm gonna jump in. I'm not going to put the words on the screen this time. I have two quotes and I'm going to just read them. I'm gonna write them in the description. So if you click the little arrow next to the bottom of the video, and it'll pull down my description. I'm gonna have it written out there, and I believe you can pull that down and look at it at the same time as watching the video if you'd like to have the words. Okay, so the first one comes on page 8. All right, here we go. You ready? A sudden slant of bluish light across the floor of a vacant room, and I knew it was not the street light, but the moon. What is more wonderful than to be a virgin, clean and sound and young on such a night? ... in parentheses, being raped. So out comes my tin can. Like, you're reading along, you're imagining this room with this moonlight on the floor, and then she ends the quote with the words being raped. Let me read it really quickly again. A sudden slant of bluish light across the floor of a vacant room. So you've got this empty room, the moon, a slant of a bluish light, and I knew it wasn't the street light, but the moon. What is more wonderful than to be a virgin, clean and sound and young on such a night? ... being raped. Okay, so you read that, and there's the things she has written before it have nothing to do with it. Things she has written after it don't really have anything to do with it. And so you really never know in this quote whether Sylvia Plath is she being serious or is she being sarcastic? Because she has put this, she's described this room with the moonlight, and then she's described a virgin, clean and young. She's like, what's more wonderful than being that on this kind of night? And then she says being raped. Okay, does she really mean that? I don't know. All right, we're gonna move on to the next one. All right, so the next one is on page 74. And if I'm honest, this is to me probably one of the most beautiful little section. This is one of the most beautiful things that I've read in this journal so far, because it has this feeling of being consumed by nature, and it is beautiful. But she's got this word in it. So are you ready? All right, here we go. Lying on my stomach on the flat, warm rock, I let my arm hang over the side, and my hand caressed the rounded contours of the sun-hot stone and felt the smooth undulations of it. Such a heat the rock had, such a rugged and comfortable warmth that I felt it could be a human body, burning through the material of my bathing suit. The great heat radiated through my body, and my breasts ached against the hard, flat stone. A wind, salty and moist, blew damply in my hair. Through a great glinting mass of it, I could see the blue twinkle of the ocean. The sun seeped into every pore, satiating every querulous fiber of me into a great glowing golden peace. Stretching out on the rock, body taut, then relaxed on the altar, I felt that I was being raped deliciously by the sun, filled full of heat from the impersonal and colossal God of nature. Warm and perverse was the body of my love under me, and the feeling of his carved flesh was like no other. Not soft, not malleable, not wet with sweat, but dry, hard, smooth, clean, and pure. High bone white, I had been washed by the sea, cleansed, baptized, purified, and dried clean and crisp by the sun, like seaweed, brittle, sharp, strong, smelling, like stone, rounded, curved, oval, clean, like wind, pungent and salty. Like all these was the body of my love. An orgiastic, I don't know if I'm saying that right, an orgiastic sacrificed on the altar of rock and sun, and I arose shining from the centuries of love, clean and satiated from the consuming fire of his casual and timeless desire. Like I have a hard time with this section because I think this is so beautiful. And I think maybe because I think I connect with it in the sense of how connected to nature she is right here. Like you can almost feel your own body like laying on this rock, the wind in your hair and the sun like warming you and the rock, like just that sensual of experience of all those textures and feelings like of heat and coolness of the rock. Like I don't know if you've ever experienced nature in a way where it consumed like all your senses like that, but I feel like I feel like I know that feeling that she's describing, but I feel like, here we go again, Sylvia, like the language, I'm like the word choice, I'm like, how, for me, I'm like, you're going along describing this like sensual experience that is so amazing that she's having with nature. But she says, I felt that I was being raped deliciously by the sun, filled full of heat from the impersonal and colossal God of nature. Warm and perverse was the body of my love under me. So here she is experiencing this really sensual, like overwhelming, amazing feeling with nature. And then she describes it as being deliciously raped. Which for me is like alarming. For me, when I'm reading it and I'm like, just like melting into her words. And then as soon as she says that word, it's like you like wake up and you're like, oh God, like, or for me, like that doesn't seem as, like, for me doesn't seem as amazing. I guess for me, I'm like, why didn't she use the word making love or something that was more like, had more consent with it? You know what I mean? Like more like it wasn't, I don't know. I don't understand why she used that word. But for me, her using that word in these two places in such a vague way, in the middle of something that you can't quite pin down how she feels about that word in the first one. In this one, it seems like she likes the idea of, because she says being raped deliciously. So for me, reading these two quotes by her and then comparing them to her poem, The Jailer, where she talks about being raped and it feels more negative, for me, it makes me see that her mind has a more complicated view of the word raped than I do. So I don't know how you feel about that word. Do you feel like raped is a word that you could use in your poetry or in your writing where it would have a good connotation? I guess maybe you could say that she was just there and she had just happened upon this place in nature and sat down, lay down, and nature was doing all of these things to her without her consent, but that they felt so good that maybe it made her feel loved. I don't know, which is very different than that's very different than a woman being somewhere and then being forcibly raped by a man. I don't know. Or a man being raped by a woman. I don't know. Or anyone being raped by another person. So I don't know. I guess I don't have a lot to say about these two quotes, but I think they open up the conversation about Sylvia Plath's perspective on the use of words, and that it makes me think maybe that I don't completely understand her, and that because she can use words that I don't know if I could use and feel comfortable with using. Like, I don't know if I would be able to use that word and then make it have a good feeling for me. But to me, when I read her words, these words where she experienced nature, to me, it seems like this experience that she's having being in nature, and then using the word raped, that she is using it in a way that does not feel negative to her. Or I don't know, maybe she knows psychologically that other people can't handle, or maybe psychologically she knows that that's a word she can use to keep people awake in her poetry, to make sure they're still listening, to make sure they're still thinking, and that they're that they won't just let it wash over them. Yeah, I wonder if she's just using that word for shock value, and that she knows that you can write this long, flowery nature poem like expression, but then if you use a word like raped, it keeps you awake and engaged in the poem in a different way than if you didn't. It makes you have to pay attention. It keeps you alert. And it makes you think like, okay, I was really liking this poem, but do I agree with Sylvia Plath? Am I with her in this poem? But it has made me very curious about her use of that word and what it means to her. I know what it means in the good old Webster dictionary, and I know what it means to me, which is something violent and terrible, and that is like treating another human, it's taking from another human in a way that's like not okay, like that's abusive. But that is not what you feel when you read that section of her journal, do you? Anyways, I would like to hear what you think about Sylvia Plath's use of the word raped and comparing these two quotes with her poem, The Jailer. Do you think maybe she has a different perspective of that than you do? Anyways, we'll stop there. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Good. Hope you have a great day.